Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Not Your Average Josh back here for another movie review, and today I'm reviewing the new movie The Machine, starring Bert Kreischer. Just came out this weekend. Before I get into my movie review, I do want to say if you're watching this, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Also, leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts on Bert Kreischer or this movie. Also, hit that subscribe button as well if this is your first time watching any of my videos, or if you're a returning viewer as well. Any support for this channel is very much appreciated. And you can also follow me on TikTok and add me on Snapchat for more content similar to this, but for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube channel, Not Your Average Josh. So again, I appreciate all the support, but let's go ahead and get into this review of The Machine. The Machine is the movie based on the story, was a legendary story now told by Bert Kreischer. If you do not know, he's a stand-up comedian, and he started telling this story years ago, and this movie is loosely based on that story, where you have Bert's drunken past catching up with him 20 years down the road when he and his father are kidnapped by those Bert wronged 20 years ago while drunk on a college semester abroad in Russia. And if you don't know about the story, well, I'm not going to explain it because it's a long-ass story. You can go look it up on YouTube or something like that. There is a version of it out there. It is a pretty lengthy, minutes-long story that Bert tells on stage. But this movie basically amplifies that story and continues it on as if it played out 20 years later. And you have Bert Kreischer here starring as himself, of course, in this movie. You have basically the Russian mob coming after Bert in this movie, and his father, who is played by Mark Hamill. His father, Albert, is his name. Maybe one of the best things about this movie is the chemistry that Bert Kreischer and Mark Hamill had in this movie. The first 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, I was a little bit shaky on. I'm not gonna lie. I was really excited going into this movie. I'm not the biggest fan of Bert Kreischer, but I usually see him mostly on other podcasts and his own podcast that he's on. And I just really love his energy, though. He just seems like such a sweet soul, loves to party, just have fun all the time. So I just really always support the guy, and I was just really hoping this movie would be good. And I will say the first 15 to 20 minutes of this, it was just a little shaky. It wasn't as funny as I was hoping in this movie. Seemed like it was definitely going to be that action comedy style movie, and for the most part it was. I will say the second half of this movie definitely picks up in the comedy area, but in the first, again, once you're getting introduced to Bert and his family in this movie, and then Mark Hamill comes in, his dad, there's just a lot of jokes that you can tell they were going for that just didn't quite land for me, and even in the audience I was with, there was a fair amount of people there for a midday showing, and it was definitely fairly quiet near the beginning of this movie, and I was just a little bit worried. This movie does pick up, and from the beginning, without me even mentioning the comedy, this movie is filmed very well. It is a Sony Screen Gems project. You can tell the production value is on the screen. The cinematography looks very beautiful. Everything from a technical level on this movie, I cannot commend it enough for. It is very much shot like a straight-up action film, not even an action comedy. There is comedy thrown in throughout here. I think that's what kind of threw me off a little bit as well from the beginning. The jokes kind of felt a little bit off, and the tone was a little bit weird to me. I was expecting more of being shot, the movie in that action comedy vein, where again, it just had this tone and feel of a real, just serious action movie. And so it took me a minute to get into the vibe of the movie, but I will say Bert Kreischer had his energy that you would hope he would have in this movie. And Mark Hamill really just felt like he was having fun playing his father here. And as the movie goes on, we get in the second and third acts of this movie, they really just, there's the ridiculous situation is just ramping up, and Mark Hamill he's having a blast with this, and it was just really awesome to see. And then Bert Kreischer just going complete Bert as this movie continues to go on. Everything you expect and hope to see from his character. And this movie is just really a lot of fun. The story is basic in a lot of ways. There's a big MacGuffin here involving a watch that you're basically going from person to person, place to place, trying to find this watch. That's where a lot of this movie takes place. This Russian mob kidnapping Bert and his dad, going back to Russia, trying to find this watch that Bert was involved with stealing 20 years ago. That's basically the premise here of this movie. And so it is something that we've obviously seen very much before, and they also do involve another thing that has been used in a various amount of movies and TV shows, where you have one of Bert's family members, his daughter, being not kidnapped but watched over, and if anything goes wrong, she's going to basically be a kaputzi. So you basically have Bert being forced to help out with this, some further incentive to where hopefully his daughter won't get harmed, which is something, seen before in plenty of stuff, a family member being threatened to be harmed. So there's a few things like that throughout this movie that is some basic elements that, again, you've seen in action movies and action comedies before. But I thought even with all that, this movie just was very well done. Again, I do still state, because of that first half, I do wish I was laughing more throughout this movie. I was hoping to laugh out loud more, like I did in the second and third act of this movie. It does get a little bit bloody a few times too, which I thought was pretty cool. And the action scenes, I already mentioned how the movie was really shot very well. The action scenes in particular, the hand-to-hand combat, it just really was kind of exhilarating at times watching it. Like, I was just really getting into it. It was just really shot so well, and I was just so surprised. Maybe the thing that impressed me the most, other than maybe the chemistry between Burt and Mark Hamill in this. Eva Babic as Irina. She is really the main person that is with Burt in this, leading him around to certain places trying to find this watch for her. It's her dad's that she's trying to find, and she's a kind of almost like his pseudo partner in this movie at times. And she has a lot of fun in certain scenes in this, but also being very serious, kind of that mobster chick in this movie who's trying to prove herself. And I really did like her character more than I would have thought when she was introduced in this movie. Jimmy Tatro, that's how you say his name, plays young Burt in this movie. I've seen him in a few other things. He's a pretty funny guy, and he is a really good casting here for a young Burt Kreischer. You definitely see it when they go to these flashback scenes in this movie to show the events that took place 20 years ago. And I really did like what they did with that. They were kind of connecting what happened throughout the movie. They would flash back to what happened when Burt was really drunk back then, into trying to figure out where the watch was, because he couldn't even remember because he was so drunk that night. It was a nice way of storytelling here in this movie to connect two different timelines, where it didn't feel like it was messy or anything. It was really edited nice here. Robert Masur as Alexei, playing another antagonist in this movie. He provided a lot of fun energy from the back before they really showed his face in this movie. He seemed like a young Dolph Lundgren, a really nice, impressive force in this movie. Is involved in one of the final battles, I guess, if you will, in this movie. Martin Ford as Sponge. He also provided a kind of a humorous presence in this movie, playing this kind of badass bodyguard, but just had some funny moments with what went down with him. I'd be very interested to see Peter Atencio, who directed this movie, to direct even a more straight up action movie that had maybe less comedy or no comedy at all. He really does seem like he has a good grip on the tone and just the camera style of what he wants within his action scenes. And I was just really invested and enthralled, to be honest, in some of these action scenes that were in this movie. So that, along with the chemistry between Burt and Mark Hamill, is really, I think, what helps me lean into more of a positive viewing with this movie, along with just every technical aspect. I think pretty much very well done in this. Again, some really bloody moments, some nice funny gags with certain moments. It was really a fun time in the theater. Not the experience that I expected. Expected it to be more of a laughing experience, but definitely leaned into that action more, which I think, especially on a second viewing, I might appreciate even more. And Burt Kreischer did a really good job here. Like, he definitely pulled off the movie star vibe very well. He looked really badass in some of the fight scenes. So, like, it looked legitimate, even though he's just this overweight comedian guy. It actually looked pretty fucking awesome. And there's even a cool moment, a classic 80s, no spoilers here on any of the plot or anything, but a classic 80s action moment here. What this fucking machine gun was going off, and Burt just happened to have a cigar, like, right by the gun, and the fucking bullets going by lit the cigar on fire. I was just cracking up, like, oh my god, that's kind of awesome, man. Like, that's just a nice little kind of homage to how the 80s action films around that time period used to be. For the most part, I would recommend this movie, and it is a positive outlook for me overall. And although the story does get basic in certain areas, it is still executed very well, and I just had a really good time with it. But that's my main thoughts. I'm going to give The Machine a 7 out of 10. Really impressive movie. I think even on a rewatch, I might even hold it higher up there for me. I just was really impressed with certain things I was not expecting in this movie, and the things that I was expecting I didn't quite get, but it wasn't necessarily a negative, if that makes sense. I would definitely go check this out for yourself. But what do you guys think? Have you seen this movie at all? Do you plan to go see it? Do you not care? What are your thoughts? Leave the comment down below, and also hit that like button as well if you did enjoy this video. And if this is your first time watching any of my videos, hit that subscribe button as well. Or if you're a returning viewer, any support for this channel is very much appreciated. You can also follow me on TikTok and add me on Snapchat, where I will post content similar to this. But for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube channel, Not Your Average Josh. Look for more videos very soon, and I will talk to you guys later.